and welcome back to the Emily Knits channel. My name is Emily. I am a knitter and crocheter in my mid-30s, based in the north of Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live with my husband and our 2 dogs close to Sherwood Forest. You will probably have already seen the footage beforehand that I have been to Yorkshire Yarn Fest, and I thought today we would give a little brief short review of how it was, what I got, what we got up to, everything like that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before I forget, because every time I do, where can you find me? You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, Ko-fi and email, all of which are down below in the channel, in the description box below. I do have a wish list on Ravelry if you wanted to support me by buying a pattern. There is also Ko-fi if you wanted to support me that way, but there is by no means no obligation to support me in any of those ways. If you wanted to support the channel but you don't want to give money, that's absolutely fine. Being here, watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, all of those things are absolutely fab, so thank you very much for being here. That said, let's get into Yorkshire Yarn Fest. So today is the 9th of November, I think. Yes, today is Sunday the 9th of November, so Yorkshire Yarn Fest is actually still on today. I went yesterday, Saturday the 8th of November, with my friend Mona. So Yorkshire Yarn Fest is a yarn festival, as the name might suggest. I was just looking on here because I thought it might actually say some stuff about it, but it doesn't. So I don't know how long it's been going. I should have researched this before I came on to film this, but I didn't. So yeah, I don't know how long it's been running, but I feel like it's a newer yarn festival, and it's one of the smaller yarn festivals. So it's run by Sophie, who is the dyer behind Botanical Yarns. She does it. It's set in Saltburn Hall near York, which you will have seen in, I think, some of the footage I've taken. It's a golf course. It has a restaurant. I think it's probably got a hotel and stuff attached to it as well. And it's a beautiful venue. It's a beautiful venue. It's a bit in the middle of nowhere, which we will get on to. But you can see like that's their logo there, and I'm pretty certain it's always at Saltburn Hall. So there were 39 vendors according to the programme, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see here. So there's the thing that you will have seen is there's multiple different rooms. So there was 1 at the Settle Bar, 2 and 3 the Great Hall, and then the Sports Hall was the biggest one downstairs. And it says 39 vendors, and I'm fairly certain that not all of them were there. I know I could have just missed this, but I was particularly looking for Eden Cottage yarns and I couldn't find them, and I could have just missed them. But I had some thoughts on Yorkshire Yarn Fest. We'll talk about those in a minute, because first let me show you what I bought, because that links into my thoughts on the festival and how it was and everything. And place your bets on what I bought. Mona, you're not allowed to, because you were there. You cheated. If you comment and you'd guess, you cheated. Go and place your bets. How much do you think I bought? How mad do you think I went? You done? Okay, so I bought nothing. And that might indicate a little bit my thoughts on Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Now, I'm not going to be super negative, because anybody that goes to the trouble to setting up a yarn festival like this should be applauded, because the work that must go into this is absolutely mad. They've already got the dates for 2027. 2026. Why did I thought 2026. Anyway, they've already got the dates for 2026. The dates are there, 14th to 15th of November 2026. But the work, the cost, the time that must go into setting something like this up is huge, and that shouldn't be lessened at all. But there were a couple of things I think that for me played into it. So number one, the venue. The venue is absolutely gorgeous. Saltburn Hall is incredible. But if you can't drive, you're not getting there. I don't know if there's any public transport being put on for it, but with where it is, I would imagine not. I used to live in York for quite a while, and I know the York public transport fairly well. I don't think there's really very much way to get to somewhere like that without driving, so that makes it a little bit less accessible to a few people, I guess. In terms of actual accessibility of the venue, I don't think it was bad, although again, I always say this, I'm not in a wheelchair, I don't have any mobility issues, so it's not the end of the world, but like, it's on 2 different floors. There were a couple of bits where the corridors and stuff to get through to other rooms were quite narrow, so like if there was somebody with a pram or a wheelchair coming through, there wasn't room for you to pass, so it's, you've got to come back kind of thing and get out of the way. And of course I'm more than happy to do that, but for somebody with there was a lady walking around with a double prammer. It's not easy to do that. Whilst the corridors and things were quite narrow, there was plenty of space in things like the sports hall and things like that, so you could get round the stores a lot easier than maybe at the likes of Yarndale and things, so that was a really good point as well. It was accessible friendly in terms of, there was a lift up to the second floor, wheelchairs, guide dogs, assistance dogs, all that sort of stuff was completely welcome, which is great, because not always the venue. I know some venues can be a little bit challenging with that sometimes, although I think a lot have got a lot better now. The other thing was that I'm certain the venue is still open to other people, so there's people playing golf, there's people in the bar drinking their drinks kind of thing, which is again absolutely fine, but it meant that some of the parking spaces were already taken up, and by the time Mona and I left, we got there for 10, which was when it opened, and we left at, it can't have been late, it must have been about 12 o'clock at the most, and most of the car park was already full, and people were having to park quite a way away on the grass verge. So yeah, that was a consideration. And I think my main thing was, it wasn't very easy to find places in the venue. We had to a couple of times stop and ask a member of staff, where's this room? How do we get to this? And the staff were running around trying to put signs up to show you where to go, but it just wasn't, because it's not all like in one space. And again, maybe this is personal preference. I found it harder to get to find what I wanted to. And then because it's in some sort of smaller spaces as well, there were some areas, like there was one beautiful little room, which I've probably put some footage in of, because I thought these two rooms upstairs were absolutely gorgeous. They've got big picture windows that open out of the golf course. They were incredible, and there was space in one of them where you could sit and have a drink and look out over the golf course, which Mona and I did, and it was lovely, sun streaming in, just watching the geese and stuff. It was gorgeous. But like one of these was a relatively small room, and in there was Beehive Yarns, and Beehive Yarns is obviously incredibly popular dyer and probably going to continue to be very popular. I mean, it's a big attraction for something like that. So I couldn't get anywhere near her stall, because there's so many people there, and it's such a small space that they were in, or a smaller space that they're in, that it was harder to move around because of that. So again, I think it's just the limitations of the venue, and I completely understand choosing that venue, because A, I know it's local to where Botanical Yarns are based, so it's great for them. B, there isn't really one up there. C, it is a stunning location, but again, with that caveat, that maybe not the best layout for a yarn show. And I think for me, it was just A, the size and the choice of vendors. For some people, this list of vendors will be absolutely fantastic. For me, there was less of the sort of rustic yarns that I like. So the likes of Woolly Knit weren't there, things like that. What's the other one? John Arbon wasn't there. The other one that I'm thinking of is... I'm going to have to put it on screen because I can't remember the name. No, I can't remember it at all. I'm going to have to put it on screen. There is another brand that... particularly like last year, everybody was raving about one of their blends particularly, and I think they spin for a lot of other dyers and stuff, but they're always at Yarndale. I'm pretty certain they were at East Anglia. They weren't at Yorkshire Yarn Fest. There is a lot of hand dyed here, so the likes of pick out some names that jump out at me. Beehive Yarns I've already mentioned, Fruitful Fusion, Botanical Yarn, Mothy and the Squid, Dina's Home of Crafts, Henny Penny Makes, Ducky Darlings, Coastal Colours, the Woolly Tangle, Hot Butter Yarn. So lots of really great brands, but if you're not in the market for much hand dyed, which I wasn't, there wasn't a massive amount of selection for me, and that again is going to be personal preference. Beehive Yarns was great to see there, because I don't know how often they go to shows like that, so that was absolutely fab to see her there. And the other thing I think was the time of year that it's at, and I don't know if this is maybe just me and the point that I'm at in my life. Yarndale was in September. I spent a fair amount of money. Well, I didn't actually. I got a lot of yarn at the Yarndale, but if you watch my Yarndale vlog, you know I didn't actually spend massive amounts of money, because I got quite a lot of that on sample credit. But we're now in November. We're starting to be in the point where I'm buying Christmas presents now. I don't have huge amounts of money to spend on things like yarn. And I know some people will budget for stuff like that, to go to festivals like this, but if I'm going to do that, I'm more likely to do that for the likes of a Yarndale or an East Anglia, where there's a lot of choice. So having it in November maybe for me wasn't the best, it wasn't for me and my schedule the time that I wanted to be buying a big bulk of hand-dyed yarn. The thing I will mention, Toilet provision, excellent, and that's part of the venue obviously, but the toilets in there was loads, they were clean, they were well stocked with hand wash and everything, they were great. And the food provision and drink provision was much better. That's something I've commented on Yarndale every time I've been. It was great there. There was 3 or 4 food trucks out the front. We didn't eat there actually in the end, but there was also drinks inside. There was a bar inside where you could get drinks. I think you could have got alcoholic beverages at some points in time, and it did also look like they were preparing some food to be serving as well. But they had teas and coffees, they had snacks, they had biscuits, they had soft drinks, which was what we got. And there was plenty of space to sit, and it was nice and quiet in the sitting space as well. So if there was space that if you wanted to go and have a breather, great. So yeah, a bit of a shorter video today because I don't have massive amounts to say about it. I'll be completely honest, we probably won't go back to Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Or I won't. Mona obviously is free to do what she will. I am probably not going to choose to go back there because I would prefer, if I'm going to go to something like that, to go somewhere where I have a big selection of the brands that I like to buy from, and the kinds of things that I like to buy. So it just didn't quite hit what I was looking for. However, that might not be the case for you. And I will say that the first little room that you go into where there was Fruitful Fusion and Botanical Yarns were set up was the way that Botanical Yarns were set up was absolutely gorgeous. Her colours are not always things that I gravitate towards because Sophie, I'm guessing from the aesthetic of everything on Botanical Yarns that Sophie absolutely loves pink, and you'll know if you've watched me for a while, that's not really my favourite colour. However, her store looked incredible. And the way that she had the samples laid out, there were a couple of samples there that I'd made for her. My PNR top was there and a crochet blanket that I did that I beelined for because she didn't have it at Yarndale. And I was so proud of that thing. And I was genuinely looking at that going, actually, I'd quite like to make myself another one of them. Not like I need another crochet blanket project on the go. But yeah, that was my very short review of Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Make sure you're able to drive to get there. And just, they have been really, really good. And I think most of yarn festivals are, but Yorkshire Yarn Fest, particularly on social media, have been sharing a lot of the vendors that they've got there prior to attendance. So there's plenty of opportunity to check that there's people there that you want to go and see. Lovely little cosy venue, and not even little, but lovely sort of cosy aesthetic and nice venue, but maybe just not my top choice of yarn festivals. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know. Did you go? How did you find it if you did? If you've been there today, let me know as well if it's any different today. Because usually you find on Yarn Festival, Saturday is the busier day, Sunday is the quieter day. And it wasn't hugely busy whilst we were there, which was a good thing actually, because it meant there was plenty of space for the most part to get around the exhibits and things like that. But yeah, let me know if you went. How did you find it? What did you think? Yeah, so that's my thoughts on Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Like I say, I still think it was a lovely little festival. It maybe just didn't tick the boxes for what I wanted and what I would look for in a yarn festival. But you might have heard me talking about this and go, that sounds incredible, I'm going to go next year. The tickets were really affordable as well. I think they were like £8 a ticket, something. It was really affordable. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I think the biggest surprise of the day is that I've come out of a yarn festival having only bought a coffee before we got there, and that's it. So yeah, coffee and parking at the train station where I picked my own up. That's all I spent all day. Big success for me. Very proud of myself. So yeah, there you have it. My little mini review of Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Let me know where. Let me know what you thought to it if you went. Let me know what other yarn festivals there are that you might want me to go and check out, or that you think I should go to because you've been to them before. I'm always up for suggestions. But that's all I've got for you today, guys. So short and sweet. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've had a fantastic afternoon, evening, weekend, whatever it is, wherever you are. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.